last time we went over the basics of the drag and drop API, and this time we are going to be putting it to a more practical use. Mainly, we are going to be using Kanban style boards and dragging cards between different sections. If you want a refresher of the basics of the drag and drop, I'll have it linked down below or in the cards. So this is the example on CodePen. I will have it linked down below if you want to check out the code as well. So we've got these sections to do, and let's say sprint 1. We've got all these different cards. And the idea is that we can drag, rearrange them within a section and also drag it across to different sections as well. That is what we are mainly going to be doing here today. So let's dive right in. I've already set up the HTML and CSS, so I'll just quickly talk through that. Right now, this is what it is looking like. So let's just make this full screen to make it more readable. We've got a container for everything just to make it nice and easy. Then each column I've called as a task container. We've got a task header, which has the name of the column, the number of tasks within it. These are all just hard-coded values. And then we've also got a add task. I'm using Font Awesome for the icons, but you can use whichever library you want. Then after the header of the container, we've got the cards container, and this just contains all the card information. And we've got a class per card. This is where the draggable is true because we are dragging the cards around. Again, pretty straightforward. We've got a card header, which has a label. We've got the card body, and that just has the title, and this is where some text would go, a little bit of a divider, and then a card footer, which we use for like showing users who are associated to this card, for example, plus comments and attachments. And then that's just repeated quite a few times, hard-coded. And again, we've got a second one, which is under your sprint 2, just a duplication of the first column, really. So that is the HTML. Styles, all pretty similar. I've just added a font. So we are using Inter here. Got rid of some of the default styling. Just set up the containers, the task containers, and made everything kind of look a little bit nicer. I've got labels where I set different colors based on the label, and users, which is just these circles. And I've also created this dragging class. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. Over to the JavaScript now, and this is where kind of all the magic happens. Just a quick rundown of what we are trying to achieve. We want to drag these cards. So we're going to target all the card classes, and we want to be able to put them within the cards class container. So we'll have a drag start and a drag end on the card just to add and remove that class dragging on. That's just a little bit of formatting. We need an event listener on the cards container, and that will manage the drag over. Within the drag over, we want to then check where the card is positioned. So we can do that based on the container and also based on the Y position. And that Y position will help figure out where we are going to be dropping the card, whether it's at the end, at the start, or between two different cards. So let's first get our card. Well, we'll select cards and then the cards container. So document.query selector all, and it's a class of card, and then const card container. Just document query selector all. Was it card dash container or cards? I think it was. Let me double check that. So I have scroll up. Let's just minimize some of this. Yeah, cards. First, we're going to target the cards. So we're just going to do a for each on both the cards and the card container. So cards.forEach for each card. We want to do card.add event listener. And I'm just going to duplicate that because I know I need to. We want drag start. And then we also want a drag end. Then the drag start, we just want to do, let's add the event in here. e.target.class_list.add dragging. And we'll copy this one down and just remove. Just forgot to add in the index file. Rookie mistake. There we go. So if we change this to 1 we'll see that it's solid. The card that's dragging is this one in the background here. We change it to 0.3, then it goes see-through. Great, I'll leave it at 0.3, doesn't really matter. So we've got our cards, we can drag them, but we've got the error that we can't drop it. That's because we need to prevent default. So cards container dot for each container dot add event listener, drag over. We need the event again. So e dot prevent default. So we can drag and drop now here, but it'd be nice if we could just for now append it right to the end of the container. So first we'll target which one we are dragging. So it is dragging. There'll only be one element with this class, so we can use document dot query selector. We are going to target the dragging class. That is the element we are dragging. Then we can just do container dot append child is dragging. And if we start dragging this, you can see it goes right to the end. Let go, that's fine. Same happens there. If we go over here, it drags the second one. But we don't want to just be able to drag a card to the end. We want to position it, and we'll do that with another function within the drag over. Function get element position. Now we need to figure out where we are placing the draggable element. Is it going to be at the top? Is it between cards, or is it at the bottom? So we'll do that with a function get element position. We're going to pass through the current container and also the Y position of where we are currently dragging over. So we'll just create const, what should we call this? Element position, get element position, container, then it's e dot client, it's lowercase c, isn't it? Client y. And if we just console.log y position, we'll see where we are. And that is where we are dragging around. Okay, I'm just going to comment out this append child right now, just so the card stays where it is. So next we need to find out which cards are currently in the container. We'll do that by just doing another query selector without selecting the current dragging one. So we'll do const draggables. We'll make this an array because we will have to do a reduce on it in a minute. But we'll do container dot query selector all. We want to select all card elements that are not dragging. And if we console.log this one as well, draggables, and I'm going to delete the other, I'll comment it out for now. I'll come back to it. So you see, we've got two cards now. If I just expand that, we are getting these two within the one container. If I drag it over here, we are getting 3. Perfect. So next we need to figure out whereabouts it is, and we'll do this based on the Y position, and then we'll figure out the position of where each of these draggable cards are in relation to where we are dragging. So as I said, we're going to create a reduce because we only want to return one element. It's either going to be at the top, so it's going to be above card 2 here, for instance. It's going to either be above card 3, or it's going to be at the very bottom. So we will just return draggables dot reduce, and I will call this closest and child. And the original value will be offset of number dot negative infinity. Get the position of the child. We'll turn this into a get bounding client rect, so we can get the top and the height, and then we can do a calculation to figure out if it's in the right position or not. So const child position is equal to child dot get bounding client rect, and we'll just console.log this. And I will bring back Y position as well, so we can have a look at that. Let's clear this up a little bit. So we have got the height and the current Y position. I'll just bring this down here. So it's about 424. And if we want to get the top, and then we want to get halfway between the top and the height of this. So we are looking for about this area here. So we'll do a calculation. Is equal to Y position minus child position dot top minus, why do I keep hitting equals? Child position dot height minus, not minus, divided by 2. So you get halfway between that, and we just double check what this is looking like. If I drag this down, you see that they're both negative. That means it's because it's currently above both cards. Tidy some of this up a little bit just to try and make the example a little bit more clear. So offset, and then I'll put child here as well, so you can see which one I'm dragging. So we'll just go right at the bottom. So this minus 168, and then we've got minus 393 is at the very bottom. So we are targeting this one because we dragged it just above it. So we want to get the highest negative value, if that makes sense. So if offset is less than or equal to 0, and offset is greater than the closest, so the current offset. So if it's greater than that, we want to replace it. We're just going to update offset to be offset. And we want to return the element as well. So I'm just going to call this element, and we'll return child. Else return closest. That means we haven't actually got one lower than we currently are. Set another console log at the top here just so we can see what is happening. Element position, this will return an object. So right now it is returning this card, so it's above here. But if we, let's just go back to the console. We just clear that and I drag it right to the bottom. You see I got negative infinity. So basically that means we haven't got an element and we're just going to append it at the end. Otherwise, we are just going to append it before whichever one we are moving above. So this is just going to be a very quick if statement up here. I will comment that out again. If element position dot, if we have element dot element, so we've got a card we are inserting before, we will do container dot insert before the element position dot element, and we are inserting the is dragging beforehand. Else we're just going to do what we did before where we're adding it at the end. So move that up, we drag it around. Ooh, that's going a bit freaky. This isn't quite dragging as I expect. I think I have these two the wrong way around. Let me double check. Ah, yes, there we go. That was the wrong way around. So we can now move cards up and down and across, and that still goes in the right position. That was a little bit of a whirlwind. I will quickly try and summarize everything that we've done. So we've targeted all the cards and their containers. For each card, we just have two event listeners where we drag start and drag end. This is just adding and removing a class so we can see which one we are currently dragging. Then for the card container, we prevent default to allow dragging. We find which element we are currently dragging. Then we calculate the position based on the current container and the Y position of where we are dragging right now. This is done by finding all of the current cards that aren't being dragged within the container. We then get the offset based on the halfway of the card, halfway of the height. If the height is closer to 0 and it's greater than the offset, that's the one we want to insert beforehand. Else we are just returning negative infinity. If we do have an element we want to insert before, else we're just adding it to the end. If you want to try and practice this and really make it your own to cement knowledge, you should try and practice dragging these columns, the whole columns, before or after each other. Hope you all have a good day, and I will catch you later.